Oh,
She-Hulk.
for sure.
She-Hulk's
awesome.
I was gonna say, what a surprise! A little bit of cheesecake.
Oh yeah, my favorite.
Who did that? Who did that cover?
I can't even remember now. It looks like a T and a T there, but I'd have to open it and look But yeah, they had like tons of artists. Listen to that sound. Woo! Crack that open. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, there were so many covers.
Is
to
that the
this
one where
book.
each page is a different artist?
Yeah, they basically. So I feel like I might have, or maybe I wanted to talk about this on the last episode, and I just didn't get a chance. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to find the cover artist on that
No.
just yet.
There's like,
There's so many.
40 to 50 artists.
But I love it, and it's like and even like this image, it's like classic 80s, because it's like if you look down here in the corner, you got like Gray Hulk and black suit Spider-Man. You know, it's like totally out of the 80s.
Well, she's wearing a Walkman, for God's sake.
Yeah, she's got the Walkman. Yeah, it's an 80s.
That's totally
homage. Thor has the beard. Do you remember the beard?
Oh, bearded Thor. With the armor.
Yeah.
That was when his bones were brittle.
Yeah. So, Al Ewing actually wrote the majority of this.
Yeah, I heard about that.
The writer of Immortal Hulk. Mm-hmm. And he spun quite the story over, basically over 80 years. But each page is like a year of Marvel. Mm-hmm. And so some of them are just like, hey, we're, this like, the first appearance of the Torch, 1939.
Yeah.
And so, but it opens with that. And then they, but Al Ewing writes there's a lot of guest artists in the book, but Al Ewing writes like this narrative that kind of flows through a lot of the story. And when he's writing it, you're reading something that's been happening throughout all of the Marvel universe, and it's like this. They're trying to trace this mask that different characters have worn, and by the end of the book, you find out that it's actually Eternity, the abstract or whatever, actually gave it to man or something, and that the power when you wear this mask, you have the power of your enemies. Like you have the same level of power, so that you're able to meet your enemy at the same level that they're coming at you. Okay. So like that's the power. So whoever wears it, if they're a galactic scale character, they would have that level of power. Or if they're just in a fist fight, they're the same. They're at the same strength of that guy. So it's like a even, but like different characters wore it throughout, and that's basically like kind of what. So I just for that reason, I thought it made it work. Like it was a little jarring to read, because not all of them were like, hey, that's the first appearance. Like for instance, 1951, they're like Strange Tales premieres. Okay, and then and Darth Vader, they were like the first. Star Wars sold 1 million copies in 1977. It was the first 1 million copy book. And but I'm like, all right, but Darth Vader. It's not Marvel Universe.
Yeah,
yeah.
But they're like, yeah, whatever. So
did they throw? Did they happen to throw Conan in there at all?
Yeah, Conan's in there.
Okay.
In the 72, I think.
Nice.
Did they slip Angela
or 70
in there?
Angela, I think might be in there.
Trying to think of other weird milestones or things that occurred.
Deadpool appeared 3 times.
Well, of course.
And then they made a self-referential joke to that.
Nice.
But he appeared like what they said, something like Cable forms the New Mutants, and Deadpool's in the panel. He makes a joke about him. But they don't say like Deadpool first appears, and then they're like Deadpool #1, later on, and then like he's back at the end, and he's like, hey,
Deadpool #1 again.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I'm back again. It was an interesting read. It actually took me two different sittings to get through it all.
Yeah, no, that's a thick.
Now, is it self-contained? Like it's just that issue? Like that tells like the history?
Apparently, according to the guys at the comic shop, there's another issue.
There's 1001.
Yeah,
which is coming out or came out.
It may have already came out, but
I remember hearing about it. I was like, okay, what's going on? That's weird.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to keep trying to run with it and like maybe get more sales. Honestly.
Well, sure, yeah.
Yeah, or to launch this it's the Eternity Mask, and they may be just trying to launch that as a concept.
Gotcha.
You know, maybe as a book in the future.
And then, like I was telling you, they have the history of Marvel or whatever it's called, which is like a 6-issue Mark Waid thing.
Yeah, that's why
I heard that was pretty good, but
it's an interesting idea. But it's also weird because of how they're trying to like use it as like a not a blueprint, but like a.
It's almost like revisionist history.
Yeah, it's like a revisionist history retcon of like, this is what it is. This is what it's always been.
Would that fall into Jared's new genre of comics as the unnecessary?
Yeah, I believe it would.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those things where you're like, okay, I guess they weren't in Vietnam because we don't want to make Punisher that old.
Right.
But it's Vietnam.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a war.
Yeah.
It was a war in the jungle. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Time is irrelevant.
Well, time slides in comic books. I mean,
yeah, I always thought
it's
that,
on a slide.
Yeah, exactly. I always thought that it was like there was like a sliding scale that was just understood.
Yeah, like time's just compressed there. You just roll with it because Magneto's was in World War II, and he wasn't cryogenically frozen. So if we figure it out, he's X amount of years old, and why isn't he dead yet? That kind of thing. And like 10 years, they're like, oops.
In
but then just I don't know. It's whatever. It's comics. Roll with it.
Yeah, that's better.
And the weird and unfortunate thing about the whole sliding scale is like to use Magneto again as an example. It's like, in recent years, like a big part of his character was the fact that he was a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
And so now, I
always use this because of when I started reading comics, but when Kitty Pryde appeared, I always felt that every 5 years of comic books was 1 year for her.
Okay.
Like for the X-Men. Like, and that's how I kind of guessed then everybody is based on this 5 year equals 1 year in book. Mm-hmm. So then I would just try to figure out like maybe how old they are based on that. Or how old they've become.
Yeah, no, I was reading a book. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been like one of the Bendis Avengers things or X-Men or something. But like, it was like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and somebody casually mentioned that like Secret Invasion was like 6 months ago in their universe. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
that was a very long time ago.
Considering all the things they run up against, like how crazy would that?
Yeah, they're like, oh, it was Civil War 1 month, and then we had the Secret Invasion, and then then Norman Osborn took over for a weekend.
And I think
they never get a breather.
Batman kind of did it too with all the Robins, because they're like, well, he has like 5 Robins.
Oh yeah,
and he's only been in Batman for 5 years.
Yeah,
so then I was like, well, it kind of fits my whole idea.
He goes through Robins like we go through like paper towels.
Right. Yeah. The quicker picker-upper. Yeah.
The quicker Crime Stopper.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna segue then. Speaking of DC, I bought and read and thoroughly enjoyed the last issue of Deceased.
Oh yeah.
The out of continuity.
The last issue.
Yes, the 6 of 6.
I didn't read it yet.
Oh, it's really good. Well, then I won't say too much. Well, there's not really a ton to spoil. I mean, you saw did you read
Superman?
You read the last issue.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Superman and Flash was great.
Yes.
Like what a combo of destruction.
So if you've not been following this, Deceased is basically DC's version of Marvel Zombies, but it was the world is infected by the anti-life equation that was somehow filtered through Cyborg in the first issue, and it turns everyone into, I mean, essentially zombies. They're like techno zombies or something.
Yeah, it's
like
a
like you can't.
The equation drives you mad, and you start attacking everything that lives.
Right, including yourself. Like people
Yeah.
tear at their own skin, and
Yeah.
so they've in this last issue, they've got kind of two sanctuaries. They've got what they call the Gotham Jungle,
Yeah.
which is run by Poison Ivy and Harley, where they've got 6 or 7 million people, saved, and then they've got Paradise Island, Themyscira, is another sanctuary.
Yeah.
Where they actually, I thought this was cool. I think it was in the last issue
It was
where
5.
they actually, like between Superman and Wonder Woman, and they raised
Aquaman's wife.
Mara.
Yeah.
They raised the island to give it more land mass,
Right.
to hold more people.
Yeah.
But sadly, in the in issue 5, the Flash gets infected, which means he could infect everyone probably in a matter of minutes all over the world because he's the fastest man alive.
he's
So
literally blazing a trail across the earth.
yeah. So Superman's the only one who could stop him, and he does, but in doing so becomes infected himself.
Yeah.
And then he flies out into space, and you're not sure what happens. But then in this issue, we see the ramifications of his infection, and it's not good. But they have a plan from beyond the grave. Batman still has a plan.
Of course.
So they, what I really liked most about this book was, that in the end it wasn't. I mean, technically, yes, it was Batman who saved the day, but he got killed very early on.
Yeah.
He got killed in like the second issue.
Yeah.
Superman lasted until issue 5, and so really the big players that are left are Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, Black Canary, who's a Green Lantern now because she kind of inherited Hal Jordan's ring because he got infected.
Yeah.
Cyborg, Mara, and a bunch of other like second stringers like Firestorm is around and a bunch of other people, and they've decided like they figured out, Earth is done.
Yeah.
They've built these arcs to take them away from Earth and to start new somewhere else. The zombie Superman has something to say about that, or something to grunt about that. But there's there's someone comes in to help at the end. I won't say who.
Okay.
But and the way it ends in a way that, like, okay, there could be more of this. There could be more deceased, and I mean, this was just such a surprise book.
You know what? At first I didn't like how they were playing it at first because I don't know why. I just was like, this feels like the wrong, like it's colliding too much with the whole zombie thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like DC's colliding with it instead of it kind of joining. But like actually, what I liked about it ultimately was that they still worked it like the Justice League would work a case. Like they still worked the same way, even though they were getting slaughtered.
They were still superheroes.
Yeah, and
they were still saving
acting
people
like themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
they didn't like break down and like
Yeah.
turn on each other and
Right.
like how you see in like all the zombie movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
No, you're right. They
They still acted like heroes
Yeah.
for sure. And they still acted like themselves in a DC comic and not in a zombie apocalypse.
right.
They were like, this is what we're dealing with today.
Yep.
So
Yeah. But no, it was just a great final issue, and
I think
I really do hope that they do like a follow up to it.
my favorite scene actually was I really like Lex Luthor's characterization in it.
Yeah.
And spoilers, but Metropolis is, one of the, victims, that
Yeah.
falls.
Oh yeah, that was
And-
crazy too. The way that happened.
Yeah, and
was-
Oh yeah.
It was the Atom.
The Atom,
who was infected, who got inside of Captain Atom.
Yeah.
And infected Captain Atom from the inside.
And Captain Atom just nuked everything.
Yeah, he lost control.
He incinerated.
I mean, Captain Atom is literally, he's a walking atom bomb.
Yeah. So he just incinerated it. And like Luthor comes up to Superman and he's just like, what did they do to our city? You know, and like the way
he was in tears. And
yeah, I was like, oh man, Lex Luthor shook. You know, and he's like, I'm trying to help too. And it was like, and they were even like, what, you know, it's too bad you weren't a hero sooner. You know, like to Lex Luthor, because holy cow, we would do some things.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I was too busy robbing banks, you know, or something like that. It was kind of funny.
And there's also there, like towards the end of the issue, there's a gut punch too. Literally, and there's a literal gut punch, and there's also a figurative one where, there's some information revealed about the anti-life virus, it's like you can't have a totally happy ending for any kind of zombie.
Yeah,
there's always got to be some tragedy,
right?
And there's some tragedy here. I mean, ultimately, it's a quote unquote happy ending, but this 6-issue Deceased series has been just a real
and they even had that spin-off.
Real surprise.
Did you get the spin-off book?
Yes, it was like a 1-issue. It was called like a Good Day to Die.
Day to Die, yeah.
Yeah, and that was really cool because that had a bunch of kind of like C-list.
Yeah, other heroes
people.
that basically didn't get collected up with the main title.
Yeah, but they were fighting.
John Constantine was great because he was he's like, no, I'm going to the bar and waiting this out. But then he's like, I'm a hero.
He gets wrapped up in it no matter what.
Yeah, he gets pulled back into it.
Who else was in it? Like Booster, Gold,
yeah,
and
Booster.
Blue Beetle.
That was their plan, was to send Booster back and try to change the outcome. You know, like by changing history.
Yeah,
and that other guy. That time cop or whatever was like, no, I won't let you. And then they just screwed that guy over.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I forgot about that. That was a good issue too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Duke, I think you'd probably agree with me, but I would highly recommend picking this up if you, once it's collected.
You have to check it out. It sounds cool.
It's a good read.
Yeah, you should definitely read it.
Yeah, when they first built it, I wasn't really sure what it was going to be because that was right around when they announced like 3 events or whatever. So I remember we were talking about it. I was like,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's like, is it really you're doing another event? But it really was like a just this side thing.
See, that they should stress that more in when they announce things. Just be like, this is standalone. Just like clarify that before it.
They probably should have made it like a black label.
So, yeah, exactly.
I mean,
why not? Like that's.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you'd have to really. You could have left it as is because it was violent enough as is. You wouldn't have to like, it's black label. We better add in all kinds of.
Add some more F-bombs or something.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I mean, they could have just made it black label because everyone knows that black label is out of continuity. Plus, I feel like just Deceased is not a great title.
Nope.
It's kind of like it's kind of an eye roll.
Yeah, it was definitely a weird pun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is it like DC Ember? You're like, hey, watch it.
I stand by that name.
Yeah, that's a good name. DC Ember.
December.
Yeah.
Yep.
December. Yeah.
Hey, December is coming up.
It is coming up.
You better
get your pencils ready.
That's right. December is where you draw a DC character once a day during the month of December.
Yeah. It's a good one.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. Let's see. I think we're still good. We probably got a few minutes left. I know, Duke, you got to peel out a little early, but we'll probably wrap this up soon. You got anything else
I got one more.
Okay.
Do you have?
Mine's kind of a can of worms talk. So.
Well, I'm gonna do this one quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Speaking of Black Label, DC Black Label, I picked up the Joker Harley Criminal Sanity book. There it is for the viewers at home.
Oh, I did not know about this one.
I saw that and I was kind of surprised that there was another Joker Harley book so soon after the Harleen book.
Yeah, I agree. I was like, why? Like
Well,
they are
there's-
just top loading the Batman stuff. It
Yeah.
seems this.
There's also
I'm
a,
like, what are you doing to us?
a solo Joker Black Label book coming out.
Yeah.
Yes,
Called-
yeah. There's
that's
no
like-
shortage. It's,
Yeah.
It's like Jeff Lemire's writing it, I think.
yeah.
Oh wow.
That I mean, yeah, that sounded interesting.
So this one, I guess I wasn't too excited about. I'll just start with that. Like art wise, it's the writing and art are good. Like it's just this the story isn't catching me.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, writer Cami Garcia, and then the artists are a duo. It's Miko Suyan, who does half the art in the book, and then Mike Mayhew does the other half, and it's because they do flashbacks.
Sure. Yeah.
So, Dr. Harley Quinn in this edition is, basically investigating a case, and she's on the trail of a serial killer, who they think is the Joker. Like she thinks it's the Joker, but in this story, the Joker hasn't been seen for a number of years.
Okay.
And they believe that he's actually he's dead or gone or whatever. But she's still not quite convinced, that he's gone forever. So that's kind of why I think that's her level of interest in this book. But for me, this just feels like like there's some pretty violent images, and it feels like something on Cinemax, or something. Like it just seems
Like gratuitous or
like gritty, but not really for a good reason.
Oh,
Like it's
okay.
just like here's a body cut in half on a couch,
Yeah.
just
So gratuitous.
violent,
Yeah.
violent for the sake of being violent.
But it's also like it's not necessarily my preference to read crime scene comic books,
Sure. Yeah.
which is pretty much what this is. So
Mhm.
I think I could be the wrong audience for it too. And the reason I picked it up is because I love Mike Mayhew's art. So
Sure. Yeah.
that's why I went with it. He's done incredible work on Star Wars recently, and I was like, wow. For the price, I think it was $5.99. For a oversized book.
Are all Black Label books oversized like that?
I think so. Yeah.
Most of them.
Okay.
There's a few that aren't.
There is.
I want to say that White Knight is a Black Label book.
Oh,
And that's
okay.
a regular size comic. So, but
Okay.
yeah, it feels like a lot are going towards the magazine size when they're like
Yeah.
these weird one-off like original series
Yeah.
kind of things.
But yeah, there wasn't much. For me, there was not much of a hook at all. I think this is a 3-issue series, and I was just like, okay, it's just going to be a crime book, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
and it's Dr. Harley Quinn, but it's like I don't know
Yeah.
if they're going to go origin, or what they're trying to do with this book, but it just seems like it's just a crime investigation, and I'm like, I could watch another 48,
So it's
48 hours or whatever.
CSI Gotham.
Yeah, and it is kind of like that too. But yeah, it's just not my cup of tea, I think. So, but the art is, awesome
Yeah.
for sure. And it's all very, very super realistic. So, I'll say that about it. So,
Okay.
if you're into that, pick it up. So,
Okay. Spiderlink.
So
talk to us.
this is the can of worms thing here, but I mainlined on the airplane. I was down at Disney, but on the flight back and forth, I read all of Hoxpox. So all of House of X and Powers of X.
Yeah,
And I know that you've been wanting to talk about that for
Yeah.
like ever, Scott.
the
so-
can of worms. Yeah,
Yeah. It was awesome.
yeah.
It was super cool. It was nice to read a Jonathan Hickman book that was self-contained.
Right.
Like I
Yeah,
didn't. When I first read the first issues of each part, I was like, "What did I miss?"
yeah.
But it turned out I didn't miss anything. It
You
was
didn't-
just
no.
the way that they were telling the story. But yeah, it's such an interesting premise. The main premise more so being Moira's various
mutant ability.
Her mutant ability to be
Yeah.
reincarnated, basically to run Lola, run it every time.
Yeah.
Like
That's
every
a
time
good way
she
to put it.
died,
Nice.
Run
she got a
Lola.
new shot at like
Yeah.
X-Men continuity, basically. I kind of felt as if it almost addressed like the conflicting continuities
Yeah.
throughout
I
all the
think so.
years
I think so too.
of X-Men, where they're like, yeah, time travel, this, that. It's fine. It's just each one's a
Yeah.
different timeline.
Yeah.
Everything else in all
And,
the
like,
other books
Moira-
play out the same. Don't worry about it. Don't think
And
about
like
it too
Moira
much.
died, I think, at one time, but then they're just like, no, she's back,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I think-
yeah. She like one timeline she like tried to cure the mutant gene, and then they killed her for it.
Yeah.
And so she allies with them. And long story short, like that's how they get to this point that they're currently at, where she said, "Hey, I've lived a million lives, and it sucks every time. Here, we need to make an attempt to like do this very specific like master plan of
Yeah.
mine to ensure the future
Because-
of the mutant species."
And that's what the whole powers of X was really like, the powers of 10, right?
Yeah, yeah, that.
So-
Yep, there's that. Yeah,
By year 1000, it was like the final confrontation,
yes,
and they knew, like, that was her final thing. Is she found out for sure, because 1,000 years later,
Yep.
her and Wolverine were the only ones still alive.
yeah.
And
The,
that
only-
was
the
not
only
through
mutants
their-
that couldn't be killed.
Yeah, and it wasn't through necessarily just through them, but it was also through that garden that they were contained in,
Yeah, they were contained in some kind of
like a zoo,
like
basically,
yeah.
on Earth. And but she found out. She's like, no, we still don't win. Like, even at the very end of all of this conflict,
Mm-hmm.
the mutants still don't win, and that's what she comes back with, and that's what launches the new series.
Yeah.
Is like she comes back, tells Charles, and then it's all of a sudden it's on fast pace in your mind, because like she told, you read it in the first issue that she's going to tell Charles all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then they've unpacked it through over these 12 different
Yeah.
books, and it's like, oh, it's like, oh wow, okay, and then that's where it ends, is with them in year 1, like, this is what we're doing now. Like, we have the island, we have our own sanctuary,
Their own government and like all this stuff.
we
And they're just
all-
like, this is how it's gonna be, and
our foundational rules.
it feels like everybody's just sort of just like, yeah, sure, like they kind of know what's
Everybody's
up.
on
Like,
board.
like I don't
Yeah.
know if
Except for Sabretooth.
yeah, except for Sabretooth.
Poor guy. Not really.
But yeah, they it's hard to tell, but like I feel as if everybody just got on board real quick. They're like, Apocalypse is here, sure. Mr.
Yeah.
Sinister, okay, like whatever.
Yeah.
Gorgon, like anybody and everybody that's ever been like something,
Yeah.
good or bad, was just like, okay,
Even when they, I think you read the early issues, but
Yes.
even when they met the Fantastic Four and they were like,
Oh yeah, that was in the first issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they're like, Franklin, they're like, hey, you're welcome to join us.
yeah.
when-
There was
whenever
like
you want.
the few people. Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
Franklin and Namor who were kind of like.
Yeah, Namor's like, no. Yeah.
Yeah, Namor's like, I'm good. I'm the king
He's
of
like,
Atlantis.
been
Yeah.
there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But they also brought in Mr. Sinister, which was a strange choice, considering he's not a mutant, but he's
Yeah,
he's
but
such a successful
Yeah, exactly.
geneticist.
Yeah.
He,
I guess that's the most interesting part, is just how they made it all work. They're like, gold balls is super integral to the plan of
Gold
the survival of
Oh
mutants.
my god, I forgot about gold
Because
balls.
gold
Yeah.
balls are like are like little, I guess, eggs
they're actually eggs.
that
like-
they're like housing, like they are like in that first issue where they pop out. Those are just
Those
genetic.
are his
Oh.
gold balls.
Yeah, they
I love
yeah.
saying it like that. Yeah.
They're genetic clones, and Professor X works with Forge to create 5 different backups across the entire planet
Oh
of
yeah.
every single mutant mind that exists through like the use of an upgraded Cerebro. And so there's just like, backup data,
So they have data backups of every mutant's
and they
personality.
can make any mutant if they die,
Yeah.
basically. It's
Which
wild. The whole thing's just
That's
like
really
ridiculous.
Which then they actually did kill off the X-Men in that one plan.
Yeah. They
And-
died and then they came back
and
and
the
they're
next-
like, we got the plan.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Even though we all died.
it's like what?
But yeah, no, the whole premise is just super interesting. Just how it's all executed. I'm like, wow, Hickman, you really like
He's a madman.
you just thought this all out.
He
Yeah.
just swung for the fences.
Yeah.
He's a madman, and you're right. Like that's the big thing about Hickman though is, like when you start reading the first one, you're in for 5 years
Yeah.
or more, and you don't know. You're like, oh my god, like is it
Yeah,
ever
and
going to end?
even though there's like an ongoing.
But you can honestly read these 12 issues and be
yeah, like I
and
feel
be
like I want to read the solo X-Men book now because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, this is really good.
right.
But I also feel as if like you could read this and be like, well, okay, cool.
And you
I
got
know
the-
that there's a new
And
status
then you
quo.
have the layout for future books if you
Yeah.
don't want to read them.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
like if you wanted to, like my initial plan was I was gonna look at like Marauders or New Mutants or
Yeah.
something because I was like that looks cool. Like New Mutants especially looked fun. But I don't need to know anything. I don't need to know anything that happened before because none of it matters.
Yeah.
Like I mean it matters. Like if they bring up continuity, it's like the New 52. They're like, oh well, this counts. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
If it doesn't ever get brought up, then I guess it never happened.
Right.
It didn't happen in this
Right.
timeline.
Right.
So it's kind of like a nice fresh slate for X-Men books, without being like bogged down by
it's almost
stuff.
like you could also say that actually the entire timeline of Marvel Comics is Moira's 10th year or 10th life. Like you could say that,
Yeah,
right? Because like everything that we've read in the comic could be that 10th year.
it
or
could
10th
or it could be or it could be. That's the
Yeah,
interesting part.
right.
Like that, it's almost it's kind of like what he tried to do with Secret Wars, where he was like,
yeah.
I don't know, they're
Yeah.
the Reed Richards and they made the new universe, and they're like, forget that. The same idea,
Yeah.
but with the X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just, whatever Moira interfered with would play out differently. And if she didn't interfere, then it's just how it's always been.
Yeah.
So, like, Spider-Man obviously never got, messed with the X-Men continuity, really.
Oh yeah.
I would imagine. I mean, I'm sure he had whatever little team-ups along the way in the
Yeah.
early years, but beyond that, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
messes with your head.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, highly recommend checking that
Oh,
out.
for sure.
Not that most,
That's honestly-
everybody's probably already has.
You know what's so
but-
funny is, like when I was going through my box tonight of stuff to pull to read, like I had to buy. I was like, I think we already talked about the X books, and I think we already talked about Deceased. And I was like, oh wait, all right.
Yep.
These are the books I've been reading.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yahoo!
I will say, I know that I missed out on the water cooler talk each week,
Yeah.
but I think reading it in one shot is the way to do
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah.
I would
really,
say so.
Oh, I just jumped right into it immediately.
Yeah.
Every time I bought it, and I'd
Yeah, it
read
helped that it was like
immediately.
once a week, but like, I was just
Yeah.
like, no, I'm good. I don't need to
Yeah.
decipher like the hidden language or
and all
anything.
his pictograms.
Although they did do they did do a whatchamacallit, the characters, what they meant. Like, I'm blanking on the terminology for whatever that's called.
Oh, like their language.
Yeah, but the
Oh,
language,
yeah.
like they were like the A, this symbol is A, this symbol
Oh
is
yeah,
that.
they do give you that. Yeah.
So
they
I was like,
give you
oh,
a
I could.
key.
I didn't feel key. That's a
Yeah.
good way to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't go back and reread everything, but I did try to decipher a few things in the issue I was reading. I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, I was like,
Maybe if I had like a separate print copy
I
of
was like,
this and didn't have to flip
drink
back and
more.
forth.
drink more Ovaltine.
Yes.
I was like, ah.
Yes, exactly.
So
Read East of West.
yeah. It never ends.
Well, we're nearing the end of our time here at the most wonderful studio in Beachview, Sorgatron Media Studios. So I think we are going to wrap it up unless anyone has any final things to mention.
I
Yeah.
don't know where I start and where Spider-Man begins at this point. It's just this is my new identity.
Spider Link
Yep.
Into the Linkverse.
I'm just gonna show up at work with this.
into the Link verse. Yeah, I'd watch that.
Now,
That'd be
all of a sudden, this rift opens up and all these different links come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
All Okay, well, we're gonna pull the cord on this episode of Comic Book Pit and jettison it.
Yeah.
This has been episode 330, and you can just since we never really mentioned things like this, you can find Comic Book Pit on pretty much all the major social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can always hit us up on any of those accounts. And you can always email us at comicbookpit@gmail.com with any questions or suggestions, or if you just want to talk, if you just want to rap, we're always there for you.
That's what it is. Is Dan's got a little bit of a Bob Ross thing tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Happy comic talk.
Bob Moss.
Bob Ross.
So check us out on any of those platforms. Feel free to like and subscribe our podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. We're also on Stitcher, Spotify, and I feel like I'm missing one, but those are the main places to listen to us. And so we'll leave it at that. So this has been episode 330 of the Comic Book Pit. I'm Dan, and with me in the Sorgatron Media Studios, we got Scott.
See you, people.
Free from his restraints. So
He's loose.
He's loose. And Spiderlink.
See you, everybody.
All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.